rest of the world. Today we have a very exciting and unusual and different interview all about ants, specifically about ants. We love the whole natural world, but today we're focusing on ants, and we've got Tom from the Great Ant Exhibition, the host and organiser of it, in the studio today to tell us all about it and how we can attend, because it's coming to the Bristol area very soon. Tom, how are you today?
I am well, thank you very much for asking.
Well, so please tell us all about the Great Ant Exhibition, because until we started emailing about this, I had not heard of it. I don't know a lot about ants, so tell us all about the exhibition.
Okay, so the exhibition has sort of grown out of a love of the hobby of mine. I've lost myself already. It's coming to Keynsham on the 5th of August at the Wellsway Sports Centre. It's really a big celebration of ant keeping and everything related to the hobby. I've sort of gone all out to make it a great day for everyone that attends. So there's the standard bits like a trade area like you would expect at most of these shows, but we've sort of gone all out with the other bits as well. We want to make it a real family event, so we've got entertainers and face painters and lectures and demonstrations going on around the room. Lots of great things going on around the room all day, basically, to keep you entertained and learning about ants.
Yeah, so I mean, it sounds like a great family day out, and you say it. When I said it was just about ants, but you said there's also reptile experiences and animal handling and tarantulas and millipedes,
yes.
And so there's a big variety. So when did this all start? How long have you been doing it?
So this is our 4th exhibition. We did our first one last August, the 27th, in Bristol, and it was a great show. It was a much smaller event, and it's somewhat grown since then. We've also hosted one in Sheffield and one in Weymouth since then as well, and we're going to do the same again next year.
Yeah, so you started in Bristol, and now you've come, and you've only been going a year,
yeah.
But you've sort of come full circle. You're going to do it in Keynsham, in the Bristol area again, and yeah, incredible. And so, tell what sort of when did you first get into ant keeping?
Well, I've always been interested in ants, but I was never allowed to keep them when I was young.
Okay.
So the minute I turned 18 and got my own place, I got my first ant colony, and it's somewhat been a love of mine since then. About 3 years ago, it really started taking off for us. We created our YouTube channel, and it all just started up from there, really. We got more and more ant colonies, and now my office is surrounded by them. And we've got lots of other inverts and tarantulas and snakes and other interesting things to show the public. Again, education's really what I'm about, so we like to get into schools and any event that we can get to show off our ants and what we like to do, really.
Lovely. And so between the ages, so you started when you were 18, and then you took a break for a bit, and then about 3 years or so you got back into it. What were you doing in the break?
I did many things. I worked a few jobs. I was an athlete for a few years, competed in a few different competitions.
What sort of athlete?
I did boxing, triathlon and strongman at the same time.
At the same time?
Yes. I believe I'm the only person to have done that.
Oh, wow.
Not 100% on that one.
Yeah. So you properly, and maybe there's an affinity with ants there, because ants are one of the strongest animals.
Very strong, very strong.
What sort of drew you to ants? Is it possible to say, or is it just
I don't think I can explain it. I've been asked this question a lot, and I've never been able to put my finger really on it. I love everything about them. I love the diversity, the difference in the behaviours between the different ant species. I like what they do with the environment and the vital roles they play in the environment. But I also just like watching them dig or carry a leaf. It's really, I could sit there for hours.
And so you've got some of your own ant farms at home, and you watch them, and you can see them digging, because you can see them digging your tunnels if you've got like a glass container. Yeah.
So we've got a few of those. We've got many different types of enclosures, for everything from 6-foot tanks down to the little boxes, and the ones that you can see where they dig themselves. Yeah, it's somewhat taken over.
Taken over, but in a good way, because I think you were saying to me off air that you think most people will be interested in ants at some point in their lives. That's your theory.
Yeah, I've always said it. I'm happy to say it for the rest of forever. I have a strong belief that at least once in your lifetime it will spark through your brain to, oh, I wonder how cool they are to watch dig or carrying a leaf. If you go to a zoo and you see the leafcutter colony, it will likely take an interest for at least a couple of minutes. And it's like, is that what I want to grab hold of and really say, let's explore this more, see what else we can show you, and see if it's interesting to you. Because it does become interesting rather fast. Usually we find people get the ants for their children, and it's actually the adults that end up getting into it because it is so interesting and there's so much to learn as well.
Yeah, and what's your favourite type of ant? Or can you pick a favourite? It's like picking a favourite child. You feel bad.
It is a little bit like that. So my favourite would be either the leafcutter ant colony, which we'll be bringing with us to Bristol, my Polyrhacus dive colony, which is a type of weaver ant. They've taken over 3 large fish tanks now, connected by a bridge. It's very cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what, like a glass bridge or
a completely
plastic?
open air bridge. It's like a branch goes between the 3 tanks.
Do they ever like fall off?
Occasionally.
And how do you get them back in?
I just pick them up and put them back in. I would advise, if anyone else has that issue, to use tweezers or cotton ball, but I'm quite experienced.
You're used to getting bitten, so you're
I
like,
get
I don't
bitten
care.
quite a lot. Yeah,
Okay.
I've been bitten at least 10 times today.
But if people can handle ants safer with
Yes.
gloves or tweezers or cotton ball, okay.
Yes, definitely. A cotton ball is the best thing for handling ants because there's not enough pressure to crush the ant, but the ants will stick to them, so you can pick them up quite efficiently.
Is it just you sort of pop it on their back?
Yeah.
Or you don't even need them to like climb on?
No,
sort of
not
thing?
really.
No.
You just press it onto them and that's it. They're stuck to it for a second.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Most ant species, not all ant species, but lots of them will have little hooks or little spikes or something along that degree on the backs of their bodies, and the cotton wool just sticks to them.
So sort of like hair, but not really, because obviously they don't have hair.
some of them do have little hairs as well.
Do they?
Yes.
I thought
Yes.
only mammals had hairs.
No, under a microscope they do have very little hairs.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay. Gosh, I didn't know that. Okay, so leafcutter ants, obviously we've seen, most of us have probably seen pictures or videos of those, and they obviously, it's very neat sometimes,
Yes.
isn't it, when you cut it? And then,
So leaf cutters are very amazing with the way they cut leaf. They use their back legs to anchor onto the leaf, and then they'll cut round it in a circle. And when they've got their cut piece of leaf, it's basically ensured that it's no larger than they are. So that's the carry weight that they can manage.
oh, so they've kind of got a way of judging, like,
Yeah.
is this leaf going to be too big for me? this piece
Exactly
of
that,
leaf?
yeah.
And then where do they take the leaves? What do they do with them?
So they take the leaf back to their fungus chamber. They don't eat the leaf themselves, they eat the fungus. So they take it back to the fungus chamber where much smaller ants will mash it up and place it onto the fungus ball itself and help it grow that way.
So it's actually fertilizer to grow their own mushrooms,
Yes.
and then they eat the mushrooms.
Exactly that. It also acts as a nursery for their brood.
Oh, so all the little larvae, is
Yeah,
that the word?
that's it,
Are
yeah.
like tucked in amongst the mushrooms.
Exactly that, yeah.
Oh wow, okay. And what about weaver ants? What makes them different?
Weaver ants they're special because they don't live underground. They nest up in the trees or in bushes. They collect sticks and debris and use their larvae, produce a silk, and they use that to weave their nest together.
So like spiders a bit?
Yeah, somewhat like that. It looks almost like a bee's nest sometimes, depending on what materials they've used. It becomes almost a paper-like substance, and they live in that, and they're very interesting. Very good at climbing and quite hard to contain.
But do you have some? Or
I do.
You've managed
I
to sort
do.
of contain them?
Yeah, they're contained most of the time.
They're contained in your
Yeah.
house, probably.
See, we use sort of temperatures to contain them because they're not native. They are we always looking for the warmer and more humid environment. So the outside of the office is a lot cooler than inside of the tank. They leave on occasion, but you find that they don't go far.
So you're sort of like, you try and be like, no, stay here.
Yeah.
This is nice and warm. This is what you're used
That's
to.
it. I mean, in ant keeping, we use barriers of different descriptions. Alcohol and talcum powder is quite regular to use.
Sorry, what? This sounds like a wizard
Yeah.
potion now.
So you mix the rubbing alcohol and talcum powder together, and you place it on the glass or whatever your enclosure is. give it 10 minutes and the rubbing alcohol will evaporate away, leaving behind a residue of talcum powder, which makes it really hard for them to cross.
Oh, so is because it's like sticky, or it's like
it's fragile.
It's fragile.
So as they try to walk over it, it falls with them on it.
Oh, okay. So you mix the rubbing alcohol and the talcum powder together, smear it on wherever you want your boundary to be. It's like a force field.
Exactly that, yeah, exactly that. It works most of the time, and obviously you have to keep reapplying it. And there is a few different variations of the barriers, and we do use it, overuse it on this tank quite possibly, but they do still find a way out. I say they got to the point now, I forget what it's called, but when you've got so many of something, the random events are going to increase. Well, we've got between 10 and 20,000 ants in there probably. So
in your office, in one room?
In just that one enclosure.
Oh my God. In just that one
Just the one
box,
enclosure.
tank?
Yeah.
Wow.
So the likeliness is that one or two might get out occasionally.
Yeah. What's like an average size for like an ant farm or an ant enclosure?
It really depends on the species. So most ants being monogamous, only one queen will possibly max out about 10,000 workers. Some ant species max out at about 200 workers. But then you can get some colonies like my Polyrhacus dives where they can gain multiple queens, they can produce more queens, and they can grow into, I'm not really sure. There are some species like Monomorium where they can grow into the millions with thousands of queens.
I suppose because obviously each queen can only produce so many baby ants, so you have to, at some point, she needs a break or she can't do it anymore, yeah.
Yeah, there is that. We always like to give them a break, especially native ants. So native ants require hibernation, and we've noticed that if they don't gain that full 8 weeks hibernation that they need, there is a detrimental effect to the queens later in life.
And so native ants, you mean ants that are native to the UK?
Yes.
Oh, and which kind of ants would we know that are native, or how many are native?
So we've got about 56 species of ant in the UK registered at the moment. It might fluctuate slightly, but about 56. Most of them you won't see. Some of them are just in areas where you're gonna have to know what you're looking for to try and find them. Whereas some of them, like the black garden ant that we get outside, very, very common, very, very easy to keep, and not harmful at all to us, which is quite nice. Most UK ants are fairly easy to keep, but not all.
Not all.
Not all.
Okay. Well, we will come on to more ant keeping advice. We're going to play some more music, but then we'll be back with more ant keeping advice. We'll also talk all about Flying Ant Day and what that actually is when you see all the ants, and how you can potentially keep ants or find out more about it or go to the exhibition. So we'll just play some music and then we will be with you shortly. And there you have Shut Up and Dance by Walk the Moon. And we are here in the studio, BCFM. We are the One Love One Planet show. Welcome back. We've been talking to Tom from the Great Ant Exhibition, all about ants, learning loads of interesting facts. The Great Ants Exhibition is coming to Keynsham on the 5th of August at Wellsway Sports Centre. And Tom, we're just going to dive back into it. And you were telling us all about you keep thousands and thousands of ants in your office. And this is something that's been a lifelong passion for you. How would you, if someone's listening to this and is like, this sounds really interesting, ants sound quite unusual, how difficult is it to start to become an ant keeper? Where would you sort of recommend people start?
So it's a really great question, actually. First, I would say come along to the exhibition because there's going to be so many ant keepers there. Like, you'll get to talk to someone, you get to talk to me. If you come find me, I'll literally talk to anyone. I'll take the time out. I don't mind. I love talking about it. But it's just, there's going to be such a wealth of experience there. Like, come along and have a chat to someone, see what you think. Just have a look at the ants, have a look at the setups, and, just have a talk, really.
And there's going to be like university lectures as well, aren't there? You said. I mean, there's the fun stuff like the face painting, and there's the reptile handling, but then there's also experts like university lectures and someone who's going to help people overcome phobias. Yes,
yeah, we have. I forget the actual term for it, but a phobia breakdown person. Yeah, they're going to help you tackle those phobias of any tarantulas or just general inverts, because I think there is a lot of that general fear and stigma attached to it. And it's, although they are to be respected, I don't think they should be feared the way they are.
Because you said you've got a tarantula, or you've
Yes.
had one, and you didn't like one until you got it.
Yeah, I was never really into tarantulas or snakes for that until I had one. And it's once I got them and started learning more about them and just seeing their actual behaviour, it's really changed my view on it. I mean, I was always worried about my snake, like I was always worried about being bitten by a snake, but then when you try and feed your snake and he literally won't eat, it's like, okay,
You're
maybe...
like, I've got the opposite problem.
Yeah, maybe he's not going to strike at me so fast, you know, he might go for the mouse before he goes for me, but...
If he bothers to eat at all,
Yeah,
he's just...
so it really changes your view on it, like...
Amazing. And I mean, yeah, because the exhibition's been going from strength to strength. You said you've had a letter from David Attenborough about your work.
Yeah. So last year we got a acknowledgement from David Attenborough about our great work and bringing it to the wider population, just telling us to keep going with it, basically, don't give up.
Oh, that's so lovely.
Yeah.
And yeah, because ants are, I think it's one of those things where they're everywhere, or they're, you know, almost everywhere, but I think they're on every continent except Antarctica.
Yes,
is that right?
Exactly.
But we don't really think about them, except sometimes when Flying Ant Day happens. Can you explain what Flying Ant Day is?
So Flying Ant Day, to the majority of people, it's just an annoyance. To ant keepers, that is the magical day where the princesses leave the nest, and they fly and meet the males from other nests, and they mate, and they fall to the ground and tear off their wings.
What? So the princesses tear off their own wings?
Yes. So
wow.
They tear off their wings because they're not needed anymore. Quite often they will eat them. Not in all cases, but again, it's just that extra bit of protein.
Oh my...
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
So before leaving the nest, they would have been fattened up by all the other workers and stored all that protein up. And then they mate, and then they land and rip off their wings. They dig a claustral chamber, and that's where they lay their first eggs. And they use all that stored protein and fats to bring up their first brood. And that's when they'll go out and start feeding for themselves, when those workers start to arrive. And
that's when the princesses turn into queens, is that right?
The princesses are queens the minute they tear off their wings, really.
Wow. Gosh, yeah. And because, but it all happens sort of on the same day. Like, how do they all sort of coordinate? Do they have a WhatsApp group where they are like, let's do it today?
That would make it easier for us. It's somewhat to do with the atmosphere and the pressure. It's usually after a big storm in the middle of July, really, July, August sort of time. It needs to be quite warm, and then a big storm, and then humidity afterwards. And it can be very localized. So you could have a flying ant situation 2 miles up the road, but nothing in front of you. Or it could be countrywide at the same time. It's sort of random in that. So in the last week or so, we've had sporadic flying ant days. We call them nuptial flights.
That sounds much nicer.
Yes. So we've had sporadic nuptial flights around the UK, but I don't think we've had the full thing yet, because, I mean, I might be wrong. I expect I'll be proven wrong. But I've not seen the full country go yet, and I haven't seen the numbers that I would expect this year. So I fully expect we're due to have it yet, which is a great chance for any new ant keepers to go out and catch one.
How do you catch an ant? Do you have like a tiny net?
Again, that would make it easier. No, I use a cotton wool ball, and so you get a test tube. You put a bit of fresh water in the end, then a cotton wool ball to block it. Then you place your ant inside with a cotton wool ball. As I said earlier, it's the easiest way to pick them up. And then block that with cotton wool again. Wrap it in tin foil or something to make that test tube dark, and leave them for 8 weeks. Don't look at them, don't touch them, don't do anything.
And they'll have enough air and everything.
Yeah. Because of the cotton wool, the air continues to flow through, as long as it's not pressed too tight. And they've got the humidity and water provided in the tube, and obviously she's already fed up and stored up all the fats and proteins she needs. So you don't look at her for about 8 weeks, and at that point she should either have workers or be very close to having workers, and that's when you start to feed.
Wow, that's magic. So like, yeah, you catch you have to obviously catch the right one, because if you catch a male flying ant, then there's no point.
You will know a difference. Males
Okay.
look more like a fly. They're
Oh.
very small in comparison, especially if you go for the black garden ant outside. Very small in comparison, almost like a mosquito.
Okay, so you want one of the bigger ones who's already torn her wings off, pop her in a test tube with water and cotton wool, wrap it up in tin foil, put it somewhere dark, and then abracadabra, fingers crossed if all goes well,
Yes.
8 weeks later you should have the start of your very own ant farm.
That's it. The hardest part of ant keeping is the patience. There's a lot of waiting and a lot of patience involved. Trying not to look or touch at your ants after you've just caught them is honestly the hardest thing, and where most keepers will actually struggle and fail. Just exposing them to light basically makes them think that their nest has been found, so they have a tendency to eat their eggs and want to dig a new nest somewhere else. So it's that taking back all the protein and trying to start again, essentially. Something you want to avoid.
Okay, yeah. So once people have the start of their own ant farm, then they need to obviously get like a tank with soil or something and some plants for the ants to go eat.
Yeah, I mean, the best way to do that is to check on my website, Ants on a Rock. We sell pretty much everything that you could possibly need, and if we don't sell it yet, we will very soon. We sell all the foods, the housing, the barriers, the ants themselves, but we also do a subscription service where it's more about the learning than the actual products you get. It's hard to explain, but you get the ants, you get the housing, you get the food, you get the barriers, you literally get every bit of equipment that you should need for, if you choose the whole year course, for the whole year you won't need to buy anything. But you also get fact sheets and learning guides which tell you exactly what you need to do as and when. So like, we won't send you the housing until the 4th month, but we send you the ants on the 1st month, and that again is just to teach you the patience of keeping them in the test tube and letting them grow that way. So it's a great way of learning if you can stick at it.
Yeah. When you say sending ants, like how do you transport ants, both like in small quantities, but then you're also talking about moving thousands and thousands for the exhibition. How do you do that?
So when we're just sending them out in the post, or if someone's bought them, it is fairly easy. In the test tube, we wrap the test tubes very well, and we package the packages really, really well. My wife is in charge of that. And really, we've not had any complaints or any issues on that front. The issue is always moving the big colonies.
Yeah.
So my leafcutter colony we've designed to be moved. It's in a box with with handles and things like that, which is quite easy to be moved. It needs to be plugged into a battery pack because it needs constant power and things like that. But the other ones are a little bit more testing. So if it's a bioactive situation where it's lots of soil and they've dug their own nest, I tend to overwater the colony for a few days to make all the substrate really damp and sticky, just so it tends to hold itself together a bit more. And then really we're just super careful. Sometimes we fill the inside of the box with cotton wool or bubble wrap, and then I have to take the ants off it one at a time.
Wow.
Yeah, we did that with the bullet ants once. Not the proper bullet ants, they're Asian bullet ants, so slightly less painful than the proper ones. We did it with them once, and I've regretted it ever since.
You were like, that was painful.
Yeah. It's not something you want to be doing, is picking them off. No. So, but generally, they're fairly easy to move as long as you're careful and you take a lot of consideration and preparation time. So we wrap everything and make sure it's very secure, nothing's going to slide about, and we take out any loose items from inside the enclosures as well, any sticks or stones or even the water towers that they use, just because again we don't want them rolling about.
Wow, gosh, yeah, so it's a proper operation to get them all. So remind people how they can where they can find out more information about the exhibition or your ant company in general, and when and where the event is.
Yeah, okay, so my ant company, you can find out all the information on my website, antsontherock.com. There's plenty of information there. We're also on almost every social media that I can think of: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Discord.
You're on TikTok?
Yeah,
Wow.
we're on pretty much everything. Obviously YouTube as well, so subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't yet.
Yeah.
We're pretty much anywhere, and you can send us a message on anywhere, and I will get back to you fairly fast. If I don't, one of my helpers will. I've got a great team of helpers, which I can't forget them, because without them I wouldn't be able to do the shows. They all volunteer their time amazingly, and yeah, I couldn't run it all on my own for sure.
Yeah.
They are amazingly knowledgeable and amazingly helpful, and they're very kind for helping me over a whole year now.
Yeah. It's like your own little ant colony of people helping each other, like the ants. You can't do it by yourself.
That's it. Like I say, I couldn't do it without them, and like the support they give me in the background as well. Whilst I'm organising it and I don't have a clue what I'm doing, I've always got someone to fall back on. You know, we have got a committee involved as well to help make the decisions, but sometimes I do feel like I'm just shooting in the dark sometimes.
Yeah.
It's good to have people to bounce ideas off as well. So yeah, I owe them a lot, really. The show owes them a lot.
Oh, well, thank you so much to everyone who's been making it happen. So it is on the 5th of August at Wellsway Sports Centre in Keynsham between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m.
Yes, that's it, yeah.
And how much is it to enter?
It's just £5 for adults. Under 13s is completely free, and we have a half price discount for anyone with a valid NHS ID.
Lovely. And so obviously there's everything about ants, but there's also things about reptiles and spiders. There's face painting. So it's like a full little day out if you're maybe if kids are bored at home, you know, take them to go see some ants and tarantulas.
Yeah, definitely. We've also got a raffle with some brilliant prizes, like we've got a family day out at the Bristol Aerospace Museum, gift cards towards laser tag, and lots of other ant-related prizes as well. But just an all-round great selection.
Lovely. And all the money from the raffle goes back to making the next exhibition happen.
Yeah. So we are non-profit. All of our money, if we do make profit, it will go back into the exhibition and back into the community as well. We look for research projects and things to make donations towards, but really it's about trying to get it to almost self-fund itself at this point, because we do have sponsors. We have the amazing Answer Us, who's sponsored us for a long time now. He's been phenomenal with his help and support for us. Without him, we would have never been able to host the first show, let alone our fourth. We also have Unseen Universe. Again, he's come on board, and he's just like gone running at it. You know, he's really been very helpful, supporting me and the show all round. So yeah, a massive thank you to them as well.
Yeah, and if there's any potential sponsors listening, and they don't have to be ant related, but anyone who just loves ants and wants to help make it happen, then obviously they should get in touch as well.
Yeah, definitely.
To bring the future shows even further afield. Lovely. Well, thanks so much for coming in and talking to us, Tom. Is there any final messages you'd like to give our listeners?
A final message, that's always a hard one. Just, I hope that people do come along to the show, and if you do, I hope you have a good day. It's been a love of mine and a passion, and I just hope I've done it right and made a great day for everyone.
Well, it sounds like you've reached hundreds of people already, and you'll reach hundreds more. So good luck. And remember, everyone, if you want to find out more about any of that, just go to antsonarock.com. That was Let's Do It Again by Jamie XX. And thank you again to Tom from the Great Ant Exhibition for coming in and speaking to us. That was really interesting. I learned loads about ants I did not know about before. The Great Ant Exhibition is happening in Keynsham at the Sports Centre on Saturday, the 5th of August. You can buy tickets on the door or in person. You can buy them on the door in cash or card. You can buy them, or you can buy them online at just go to antsonarock.com to find out more about any of that, or to order your own ant keeping kit if that's something you want to start. That brings us almost to the end of our show. Please do join us next week when we're going to be talking to Deb and Simon